chaos holds the oldest wisdom we possess. Ancient stories are filled with trickster figures like Loki and Coyote, characters who break every rule not for simple mischief, but to reveal profound truths. These cunning archetypes are not villains. They are essential agents of change, overturning rigid orders and exposing the hidden dynamics of society and our own minds. By the end of this exploration, you will see chaos not as a force to fear, but as a vital teacher for navigating the complexities of your own life. We will uncover why the same disruptive spirit appears in myths across the globe, and what its sudden reappearance in our modern stories might mean for us today. What part of your own life feels ready for a little creative disruption? They live in the liminal spaces, on the roads between towns and the edges of the map. A trickster is a boundary crosser by nature, a figure who defies the neat categories we build to make sense of the world. This archetype is a walking contradiction, a fusion of creator and destroyer. They can appear foolish one moment and profoundly wise the next. Their actions seem selfish, yet they often result in gifts for all of humanity. They bring chaos, yet from that chaos, a new and more resilient order often emerges. Anthropologists like Paul Radin called them culture heroes, not despite their transgressions, but because of them. By breaking a sacred rule, the trickster accidentally shows everyone why that rule existed in the first place, thereby cementing it into the social fabric. Their rule-breaking is never senseless. It is a pressure test, revealing which structures are strong and which are fragile, ready to be reshaped. Consider Anansi, the spider from West African lore. His hunger and cunning lead him to trick powerful beings, and from these deceptions he wins stories, wisdom, and fire for the people. Or think of the Greek titan Prometheus, who dared to deceive Zeus himself, stealing fire from the gods to ignite the human mind with knowledge and art. These are not simple pranksters, they are essential catalysts. They challenge the status quo not out of malice, but to force a community, or even an entire species, to grow. They ask us the most uncomfortable question: what if the truths we hold so firmly are not truths at all, but merely habits? By understanding this core blend of chaos and creation, we can now journey back to the very dawn of storytelling, to meet the original tricksters who first taught humanity these difficult, vital lessons. This pattern is far too consistent to be a simple coincidence. From the frozen north to the sun-scorched savanna, the trickster appears. In the dense forests of Japan, the kitsune, a magical fox, uses its intelligence to play elaborate pranks on samurai and farmers alike, often teaching lessons about pride and humility. Across the world, in West Africa, the Orisha Eshu guards the crossroads, a messenger who delights in creating misunderstandings to reveal deeper truths. These are not isolated inventions. They are echoes of the same fundamental character, speaking to a universal human understanding. Long before empires rose, the people of ancient Mesopotamia told stories of the god Enki, a master of cunning who used clever words and deceptive promises to shift the balance of power among the gods, ensuring no single entity could hold total control. And in the frosty halls of the Norse gods, Loki's chaotic interventions constantly tested the strength of Asgard, his actions sowing the seeds for both its greatest tragedies and its ultimate rebirth. This global chorus of tricksters points to something deep within us. They embody the eternal push and pull we all feel, the conflict between our desire for safe, predictable structure and our innate yearning for freedom and spontaneity. Our ancestors were not just telling wild tales around the fire, they were encoding survival manuals. These stories were subtle, powerful tools for teaching the next generation about the complexities of life. They showed that blind obedience could be as dangerous as reckless rebellion, and that true wisdom often lies in knowing when to uphold the rules and when to creatively bend them. The trickster, in all its forms, serves as a cross-cultural mirror, reflecting a shared psychological landscape that connects all of humanity. It is within this ancient, universal frame that we can now pinpoint the precise and startling lessons these chaotic figures were designed to teach. The world of the trickster is painted in shades of gray, a stark contrast to our modern love for simple answers. One of their most profound lessons is the value of embracing ambiguity and living with contradiction. Consider the Native American Coyote, a figure found in countless stories across many nations. In one tale, he might be a divine creator, arranging the stars in the sky, while in the very next he is a bumbling fool whose clumsy fall creates a mountain range. This is not a flaw in the storytelling, but its very point. Coyote forces us to accept that profound wisdom and ridiculous folly are not opposites, but can exist within the same being, often at the very same time. The trickster archetype actively challenges our rigid ideologies by embodying paradox. They are simultaneously sacred and profane, a hero and a villain, a giver of life and a bringer of chaos. This reflects a deep psychological truth. The pioneering psychologist Carl Jung saw the trickster as a powerful representation of the unconscious mind, that hidden part of ourselves where all our opposing impulses, desires, and fears reside. Jung believed that true personal growth, a process he called individuation, requires us to acknowledge and integrate these conflicting aspects rather than denying them. We see this beautifully illustrated in the epic Chinese journey to the West. The Monkey King, Sun Wukong, is a classic trickster whose immense power is matched only by his rebellious pride. His defiance of the celestial order causes immense havoc, yet it is this very same disruptive spirit that sets him on the path to enlightenment and eventual redemption. His story teaches us that personal transformation is rarely a calm, orderly process. It often arrives through navigating our own internal storms and contradictions. By learning from the trickster, we cultivate cognitive flexibility. This is the mental ability to switch between different concepts or adapt our thinking to new, complex situations. It allows us to appreciate the rich nuances in ourselves and in others, moving beyond the limitations of black and white, thinking to find strength and creativity in life's inherent uncertainties. This skill has never been more vital than in our rapidly changing world, and it is often through the trickster's most disarming tool, laughter, that these rigid structures are most effectively dismantled. Laughter is a dangerous and liberating magic. In the world of the trickster, a joke is never just a joke. It is a carefully aimed stone that shatters the polished surface of authority, revealing the fragile human truths that lie beneath. This is the subversive power of humor, a force that can topple kings and humble the proud without a single drop of blood being spilled. Consider the legendary Till Eulenspiegel, a wandering prankster from medieval European folklore. His stories were not simple slapstick. He would arrive in a town and immediately target the most pompous and self-important figures, whether a greedy noble or a hypocritical clergyman. In one famous tale, he poses as a skilled painter and is hired to create a mural for a wealthy lord. He promises a masterpiece that can only be seen by those of legitimate birth. When the lord and his entire family stand before the blank wall, too proud to admit they see nothing, they praise the invisible art, thereby revealing their own vanity and fear for all to see. Eulenspiegel's pranks were a form of social justice, using laughter to expose the absurdities of a rigid class system and giving a voice and a chuckle to the common people who were otherwise powerless. This pattern repeats across cultures. We see it in the enduring tales of Anansi the spider, whose clever deceptions constantly allow him to outmaneuver larger, stronger animals. His victories are not won by brute force, but by superior wit, demonstrating that intelligence and a well-timed trick can level the most uneven playing field. Psychologically, this kind of humor is a vital coping mechanism. It allows us to confront difficult truths, process collective trauma, and challenge sacred taboos from a safe distance. When a community laughs together at Coyote's greed, leading him to get his head stuck in a buffalo skull, they are not just enjoying a funny story. They are collectively reflecting on the dangers of unchecked desire, internalizing a moral lesson wrapped in the safety of comedy. This is why humor is so much more than entertainment. It is a tool for resilience and a catalyst for subtle, profound change. In our modern world, satirists and comedians are the direct descendants of these ancient tricksters. They use the stage and the screen to hold a mirror to society, using jokes to address the most serious issues of our time, from political corruption to social injustice. Their laughter opens a door for dialogue that might otherwise remain firmly shut. By embracing this trickster wisdom, we learn to wield humor not as an escape from reality, but as a way to engage with it more deeply. It teaches us that sometimes the most serious and transformative truths are the ones we must be willing to laugh at first. And it is from this space of broken boundaries and liberated perspective that the trickster's greatest gift emerges, the raw, untamed power of pure creativity. True creativity rarely blooms within neat, fenced gardens. It ignites in the wild spaces between categories, and the trickster is its ultimate spark. This archetype is an innate innovator because it refuses to be confined by any boundary, whether physical, social, or conceptual. Its greatest breakthroughs come from a willingness to cross lines and explore the forbidden. We see this in the Polynesian hero Maui, a trickster demigod who saw a problem no one else dared to address. The sun raced too quickly across the sky, leaving his people with short, cold days. Maui did not accept this as an unchangeable law of nature. Instead, he braided a mighty rope and journeyed to the volcano where the sun rose. He lassoed the fiery orb itself, refusing to let it go until it promised to move more slowly. This was not just a feat of strength. It was an act of audacious, creative problem-solving that defied the fundamental order of the world for the benefit of all humanity. This same boundary-crossing spirit defines the Norse Loki, a being who fluidly moved between the realms of the gods, the giants, and mortals. His journeys were not mere wanderings, they were essential missions that led to unexpected alliances, the acquisition of powerful artifacts, and discoveries that would have remained hidden if he had stayed in his prescribed place. This literal crossing of thresholds represents a deeper cognitive flexibility. The trickster mind sees connections where others see only divisions. It looks at a wall and immediately wonders what is on the other side, or if the wall is even necessary at all. This mindset is not confined to ancient myths. In modern organizational theory, we see the value of a trickster spirit that encourages breaking down departmental silos and challenging core assumptions. The most disruptive technologies and business models often come from thinkers who, like Maui and Loki, operate outside traditional frameworks. They ask why things must be done a certain way, and their willingness to venture into the unknown unlocks novel solutions. The profound lesson is that rules are necessary for structure, but they should not be immutable. True progress sometimes demands that we step over the line, embracing the risks and rewards of uncharted territory. This creative defiance is only possible, however, if we possess the trickster's final and most crucial skill, the ability to adapt and thrive when the chaos we unleash inevitably turns back on us. Rigidity shatters under pressure, but a flexible spirit endures. The trickster's fourth and perhaps most vital lesson is a masterclass in adaptability, a demonstration of how to survive and even thrive when the world turns unpredictable. Consider the enduring tales of Brer Rabbit, born from African American folklore. Here is a small, physically weak rabbit surrounded by powerful predators like Brer Fox and Brer Bear. He cannot win a direct fight. Instead, his survival depends entirely on his quick wit and ingenious deceptions. In his most famous adventure, he is captured and about to be cooked, but he pleads with his captor, begging not to be thrown into the terrifying briar patch. Of course, the briar patch is exactly where he calls home, and by feigning fear, he tricks his enemy into throwing him right into the safety of the thicket. Brer Rabbit's victory is a triumph of intelligence over brute strength, a timeless illustration that the most potent weapon is a nimble mind. This principle echoes far beyond folklore, resonating deeply with the logic of evolutionary biology. In nature, it is not always the strongest or the fastest that survive, but the most adaptable, the species that can adjust their behavior and strategies to meet sudden environmental shifts. The trickster is the embodiment of this evolutionary genius, constantly turning apparent disadvantages into unique opportunities. Psychologically, this translates directly into resilience. The trickster archetype within us encourages a fundamental shift in perspective, where we stop seeing obstacles as impassable walls and start viewing them as complex puzzles waiting to be solved. This mindset is beautifully captured in the Japanese tales of the kitsune, the magical fox spirit. When faced with a threat, a kitsune does not stand its ground for a futile last stand. It changes form, it creates illusions, it weaves elaborate deceptions not out of cowardice, but from a profound understanding that flexibility is the key to protection and eventual victory. This ancient wisdom is urgently relevant in our modern lives. In the world of entrepreneurship, the ability to pivot, to abandon a failing strategy and creatively redirect resources is the difference between bankruptcy and breakthrough. In our personal lives, the unexpected loss of a job, a sudden illness, or a global crisis demands the same trickster spirit. We are called to reassess, to reinvent, and to find new paths we never knew existed. The lesson is clear and uncompromising. Rigidity leads to fragility, a brittle existence that cracks under the slightest stress. Adaptability, however, fosters endurance, creating a life that can bend with the storm without breaking. By learning to think like the trickster, we equip ourselves to handle life's inherent uncertainties, transforming chaos from a destructive force into a catalyst for innovation and unexpected strength. This very act of survival, of navigating a flawed and shifting world, inevitably draws our attention to the systems and structures that create such chaos in the first place. The most dangerous lie is the one a society tells itself. Tricksters specialize in shattering these comfortable illusions, holding up a mirror to the flaws and hypocrisies baked into our most trusted institutions. They are not anarchists seeking to burn everything down, but master diagnosticians who expose a sickness so that it can be healed. Look at the West African Orisha Eshu, the divine messenger who guards the crossroads. In one pivotal story, Eshu wears a hat that is black on one side and white on the other. He walks down a path between two farmers who are close friends. After he passes, the two men begin to argue, one insisting the stranger's hat was black, the other swearing it was white. Their disagreement escalates into a violent feud, all because neither could conceive that the same man could be both. Eshu did not create the prejudice in their hearts. He merely revealed it, forcing the entire community to confront the rigid thinking that threatened to tear it apart. This is the trickster as a catalyst for necessary social dialogue. Across the world, in the enchanted forests of Shakespeare, we find Puck, a spirit who embodies this same chaotic wisdom. His magical errors in A Midsummer Night's Dream, mistakenly applying love potions to the wrong Athenians, create a whirlwind of romantic confusion. Yet this temporary chaos ultimately dismantles the artificial social barriers between the lovers, the nobles, and the common players. The rigid hierarchies of their world are proven foolish and fragile, allowing for a more genuine and compassionate order to emerge in their place. This process has a powerful name in the modern world: creative destruction. It is the economic and sociological principle that true progress often requires the dismantling of outdated, inefficient structures to make way for new growth. The trickster is the ancient personification of this disruptive yet ultimately constructive force. We see this spirit alive today in the tactics of modern activists and satirists. They are our contemporary Eshus and Pucks, using guerrilla art, biting memes, and strategic absurdity to highlight systemic injustices that many have learned to ignore. By reframing a serious issue through the disarming lens of humor or clever disruption, they bypass our defenses and force a public conversation. The lesson is not that all authority is bad, but that no authority should be beyond questioning. A system that cannot withstand scrutiny, that cannot adapt to criticism, is a system already in decay. The trickster gives us permission to be skeptical, to poke and prod at the foundations of our society, not out of mere cynicism, but from a profound desire to build something stronger, fairer, and more truly resilient. This external critique, however, always leads back inward, forcing us to confront the very same flaws and contradictions mirrored within our own selves. Every great myth holds a mirror to the human soul, and the trickster forces us to look directly into its darkest corners. This archetype is a powerful embodiment of what the psychologist Carl Jung termed the shadow self, the collection of traits, desires, and impulses we repress because they do not fit our conscious ideal. We lock away our selfishness, our pettiness, our chaotic urges, believing this makes us good. Yet the trickster, in all its ambiguous glory, demonstrates that these disowned parts never truly disappear. They merely wait in the shadows, growing in power until they demand to be heard. The Norse god Loki is a perfect example of this psychological truth. He is not a one-dimensional villain. He is a complex being whose cleverness saves the gods as often as his deceptions endanger them. He is the vital ally who retrieves Thor's stolen hammer through a brilliant, if humiliating, disguise, and he is the bitter outcast whose resentment fuels the events of Ragnarok. Loki's entire story is a mythic representation of the human capacity for both creative genius and destructive chaos, existing within a single heart. His narrative urges us to do the difficult work of integration, to acknowledge that we, too, contain the potential for both light and dark. When we refuse this work, when we deny our shadow, it does not vanish. It instead projects outward, causing us to see our own flaws magnified in others, or it erupts in uncontrollable outbursts of anger or spite that seem to come from nowhere. The trickster's antics in myth often serve this exact purpose for other characters, holding up a mirror to their hidden weaknesses. A clever deception might reveal a king's profound vanity or expose a community's hidden greed, forcing a collective confrontation with what everyone was trying to ignore. We see a more playful yet equally profound version of this in the stories of the Hindu god Krishna. As a youth, he is the divine trickster, stealing butter and playing mischievous pranks on the village girls. But these are not mere childish games. Each act is a lesson about the nature of love, the limits of strict duty, and the beautiful, messy complexity of being human. His playful chaos teaches that spirituality is not about rigid perfection, but about embracing the full spectrum of our experience. By engaging with the trickster, whether in ancient stories or in our own introspection, we learn a radical form of self-acceptance. We begin to see our so-called flaws, our contradictions and imperfections, not as enemies to be defeated, but as raw materials. Our stubbornness can be reframed as determination. Our rebellious streak can fuel innovation. Our occasional selfishness can teach us the boundaries of self-care. This is the ultimate alchemy of shadow work, transforming potential liabilities into unexpected sources of strength and creativity. The lesson is clear and challenging. True self-awareness requires immense courage, the courage to descend into our own personal labyrinth and face the minotaur we locked away. It is the trickster's own journey, a constant navigation between the poles of chaos and order, and it is the only path to becoming a whole, authentic person. This profound understanding of the self's fluid nature naturally extends outward, challenging the very stability of identity and the world we perceive. The self is not a stone monument but a flowing river. Trickster myths have always understood this profound truth, presenting identity not as a fixed essence but as a costume to be worn, adapted, or discarded as the situation demands. The Native American Coyote is a master of this art, constantly shifting his form from animal to human, from a gust of wind to a talking rock. He is not being deceptive in a malicious way. He is demonstrating that identity is fundamentally performative, a tool that changes based on the context and the goal at hand. His transformations teach that who we are is not a single, rigid thing, but a collection of potentialities. This ancient wisdom finds a startling echo in modern psychology. The concept of the protean self describes a personality that is fluid and adaptable, able to reshape itself in response to life's complexities without shattering. Psychologists see this not as a sign of instability, but as a mark of resilience in a world that constantly demands we play different roles, from parent to professional, from leader to friend. The trickster's refusal to be pinned down challenges our most basic assumptions about reality itself. In the African diasporic traditions of Vodou, the Lwa Papa Legba stands at the crossroads, a divine trickster who holds the keys to the gates between the human world and the spirit world. He is the ultimate boundary crosser, reminding us that what we perceive as solid reality is merely one layer of a vast, multidimensional existence. His presence dissolves the hard line between the seen and the unseen, forcing a radical openness to possibilities beyond our ordinary senses. This lesson crashes into our modern moment with undeniable force. We live in an age of digital avatars, curated social media profiles, and virtual realities, where the very idea of an authentic self is constantly negotiated and performed. The trickster archetype provides a crucial framework for navigating this new landscape. It teaches us that exploring different identities, trying on new ways of being in a virtual space, does not necessarily mean we are being fake. It can be a profound act of self-discovery, an expansion of our own humanity. The key, as the trickster shows, is to maintain a core set of values that anchor us even as we flow between different roles. Embracing this fluidity is the foundation of deep empathy. When we understand that our own identity is a construct, we become more capable of stepping into the perspectives of others, of feeling what they feel because we recognize that, on some level, we are all wearing a costume. This does not lead to a loss of self, but to its enrichment. We become more complex, more nuanced, and far more interesting. Yet, this great power to reshape identity and perception carries with it an immense ethical weight, a responsibility that the trickster's own stories never let us forget. A clean, simple world of good versus evil is a comforting fantasy the trickster will never let us keep. These figures thrive in the gray zones of morality, forcing us to confront the unsettling truth that the line between right and wrong is often blurred, shaped by context and consequence. Take the Norse god Loki and his most infamous act, the death of the radiant god Balder. Loki did not wield the weapon himself. He discovered that mistletoe, a plant deemed too insignificant to swear an oath of protection, was the one thing that could harm Balder. He then guided the hand of the blind god Hodder, who unknowingly threw the fatal sprig. Was this pure evil or a twisted form of problem-solving, a brutal demonstration that no system of protection can ever be truly complete? The myth forces us to wrestle with intention versus outcome, leaving generations to debate whether Loki is a villain or a tragic, necessary agent of a harsh reality. This ambiguity is not a flaw in the story, but its entire purpose. It mirrors our own lives, where ethical choices are rarely as clear as storybook fables would have us believe. We see this complexity again in the tales of Anansi the spider. His cunning often secures vital resources like stories or fire for the entire community, a clear moral good. Yet his methods frequently involve deceiving and exploiting other animals, raising difficult questions about utilitarianism. Is it just to benefit the many at the expense of the few, even if the few are innocent? Anansi does not offer an easy answer. He simply acts, and we are left to untangle the moral knot he creates. This philosophical challenge resonates with existentialist thought, which argues that life has no pre-written moral script. Meaning is not found but forged through our choices in an ambiguous world. The trickster is the embodiment of this daunting freedom. They teach us that rigid, unthinking adherence to a moral code can itself become a form of injustice, preventing us from responding with compassion and wisdom to the unique demands of each situation. In our modern world, this trickster wisdom is a vital antidote to polarization. It encourages critical thinking and deep empathy, compelling us to step outside our own perspective and genuinely consider the motivations and circumstances of others before we rush to judgment. By sitting with the discomfort of the trickster's ambiguous nature, we do not become moral relativists. Instead, we forge a more sophisticated and resilient moral compass, one capable of navigating the intricate, often contradictory, landscape of human behavior. This difficult journey through ethical gray areas is, in its own right, a form of profound initiation, a chaotic passage that fundamentally transforms who we are. This necessary chaos finds its ultimate purpose in the sacred space of initiation. Across countless cultures, the trickster is not an outsider to these rites of passage, but their essential guide, the very agent of the turmoil required for true transformation. In the vast tapestry of Aboriginal Australian Dreamtime, the trickster crow does not offer a safe path. He leads initiates through deceptive and dangerous landscapes, creating scenarios that test their spirit far more than their strength. One might be tricked into a futile chase or forced to solve an impossible riddle. These are not arbitrary trials. They are designed to break down the initiate's old understanding of the world, to shatter the comfortable identity of childhood so that the wiser, more resilient adult self can emerge. This process mirrors ordeal-based rituals found everywhere, from the vision quests of Native American traditions to the intense ceremonies of ancient Greek mystery cults. The core truth is the same. Growth is not a gentle ascent. It is a turbulent crossing, a descent into a state of profound ambiguity anthropologists call the liminal phase. This is the trickster's true domain, the fertile void between what was and what will be. The scholar Victor Turner called this state communitas, a moment when normal social hierarchies and structures are temporarily dissolved. In this sacred chaos, everyone is equal, united by the shared experience of being unmoored. It is a collective reset button, a period of immense potential where the old rules no longer apply and new ways of being can be imagined. The trickster, as the master of this in-between space, presides over this necessary dissolution. They are the one who takes away our map, forcing us to navigate by starlight. We experience modern versions of this initiation constantly, though we rarely name them as such. A sudden, unexpected career loss plunges us into a liminal state of uncertainty. A deep personal crisis, like the end of a long relationship or a severe illness, strips away our former identity, leaving us asking, "Who am I now without my old roles and routines?" In these disorienting times, the trickster archetype within us awakens. It challenges us to let go of our attachments to how we thought life should be. It forces a creative adaptation, a fundamental re-evaluation of our path and purpose. The ordeal of the initiation, whether formal or life-imposed, is not a punishment. It is the crucible. The chaos is not an obstacle on the path. It is the path itself, the essential friction that grinds away our old shell and polishes the core of who we are meant to become. This difficult, individual journey of transformation, however, never occurs in a vacuum. It is woven into the larger fabric of the community, binding everyone together through the power of a story told and retold around the fire. A society's deepest values are often forged in the crucible of shared laughter. The trickster's chaos, paradoxically, becomes a powerful glue that binds a community together. For countless generations, people did not experience these stories alone. They gathered around fires or in communal halls, listening as the exploits of Coyote or Anansi unfolded. In that shared space, a collective gasp at a foolish mistake or a burst of laughter at a clever deception did more than entertain. It reinforced a common identity and subtly transmitted the rules of living well with others. The Winnebago trickster cycle, for example, is far more than a series of adventures. It is a foundational narrative that teaches, through vivid negative examples, the vital importance of sharing resources, showing respect for the natural world, and the dire consequences of unchecked greed. When the trickster suffers for his gluttony or arrogance, the entire community learns the lesson together, internalizing social codes in a way that a simple lecture never could achieve. This communal experience aligns with what the sociologist Emil Durkheim called collective effervescence, that electric sense of unity and purpose that emerges from a shared ritual. The storytelling event itself becomes a ritual where the group's values are celebrated, questioned, and ultimately reaffirmed. We see modern versions of this phenomenon all around us. A viral internet meme that cleverly satirizes a political figure, or a satirical news segment that exposes a societal hypocrisy, functions just like a trickster tale. Those who understand the joke and share the laughter instantly feel a sense of belonging to a group that sees the world in a similar way. The chaos of the trickster's narrative allows a community to safely process its internal tensions and conflicts. By laughing at the absurdities of power or the follies of human nature together, people release social pressure and find common ground. The lesson is profound. Even dissent, when channeled through the trickster's playful spirit, can create connection rather than division. Questioning the status quo becomes a collective activity that ultimately weaves a stronger, more self-aware social fabric. This intricate relationship between the trickster and the community inevitably extends outward, shaping how we understand our place within the vast, living world. The land itself remembers the trickster's careless footsteps. These ancient stories are not just about social order or personal growth. They are some of the oldest environmental teachings we possess, coded in myth and consequence. Look at the Native American coyote, forever hungry and impatient. In one tale, he might try to steal a water jug, only to fumble and spill the entire contents, creating a vast desert where none existed before. His careless act is a permanent physical lesson etched into the landscape, a stark reminder that a single moment of greed or thoughtlessness can disrupt the delicate balance that sustains all life. This is not punishment but education. The story shows in terms a child can understand that resources are finite and must be handled with care. The same profound wisdom echoes in the Amazon rainforest, where the boto, the pink river dolphin, is a revered trickster. By shape-shifting into a handsome stranger to attend village festivals, he blurs the line between the human world and the wild. His presence is a constant, enchanting warning. It reminds people that the forest is not a separate place to be conquered, but a living, sentient community of which they are only one part. To disrespect that boundary, to take without gratitude, is to invite chaos. These narratives fundamentally challenge the modern idea of humanity as separate from nature, sitting in a position of dominance. Instead, they present a world of intricate reciprocity, where every action has a ripple effect through the entire web of life. The trickster, in his chaotic testing of limits, often ends up defining those very limits for everyone. He shows us where the breaking point lies. In an age of climate change and mass extinction, this ancient wisdom is not just relevant, it is urgent. The trickster's lesson is a call to replace arrogance with humility, to manage resources with an eye toward the seventh generation, not just the next quarterly report. It teaches that true ecological balance requires us to acknowledge our place within a system far greater than ourselves, to operate with respect for the boundaries that maintain the health of the whole. This deep, embodied respect for the natural order finds a powerful parallel in one of the trickster's most sacred roles, that of the holy fool who speaks truth to power. Sometimes the most direct path to wisdom is to walk backwards. In the heart of Lakota spirituality, the Heyoka sacred clown embodies this paradox perfectly. This figure is a deliberate contrarian, a thunder dreamer who wears a heavy buffalo robe in the blistering summer heat and shivers naked in the freezing cold. He might cry at a joyful celebration or laugh uproariously at a funeral. His behavior is not random madness. It is a meticulously crafted performance designed to shock the community out of its automatic routines. By doing everything backwards, the Heyoka holds up a mirror to society, forcing everyone to question the unspoken rules they follow without thought. He demonstrates that our perception of reality, from what is hot and cold to what is sad and happy, is often just a matter of habit and consensus. This sacred disruption creates a crack in ordinary consciousness, a fleeting opening through which a more direct, unmediated experience of the world can flow. This same spirit of holy absurdity animates the Zen Buddhist tradition, particularly in the life of the eccentric monk Ikkyu Sojun. He was a renowned poet and calligrapher who openly flouted monastic regulations, frequenting taverns and brothels not out of debauchery, but as a radical teaching method. He used his outrageous behavior to shatter the idol of doctrinal purity, pointing his students away from rigid scripture and toward the raw, unpredictable truth of immediate experience. For Ikkyu, true enlightenment was not found in quiet meditation halls alone, but in the messy, chaotic, and beautiful reality of everyday life. The sacred clown, in all its forms, uses humor and inversion as a spiritual crowbar, prying open the locked doors of dogma. Their antics are a form of divine mischief, challenging the faithful to distinguish between the empty container of ritual and the living water of genuine spiritual insight. The profound lesson here is that spiritual maturity often demands a process of unlearning. We must be willing to let go of our comfortable certainties and our polished self-images to make room for a faith that is dynamic, personal, and rooted in a deep, mindful awareness rather than in blind adherence to external authority. This trickster-inspired spirituality finds a vital place in our modern world, encouraging a more inclusive and adaptive approach to faith. It embraces mystery over absolute answers and finds the sacred not only in grand cathedrals and ancient texts, but also in a child's laughter, a cracked pavement, or a moment of shared absurdity. By engaging with the sacred clown archetype, we learn the gentle art of laughing at our own spiritual pretensions. We become open to receiving insight from the most unexpected places, recognizing that the voice of the divine often whispers from the margins, from the overlooked and the ridiculous, never from the hardened center of orthodoxy. Chaos now wears a mask of pixels and pop culture. The trickster archetype has not faded with the ancient myths. It has simply found a new stage in our modern media. These contemporary figures carry the same disruptive torch, challenging our heroes and our own perceptions with a wink and a knowing grin. In the grim world of Gotham, the Joker exists not for wealth or power, but to tear down the rigid moral code of Batman, to prove that order is a fragile illusion. His chaotic morality forces the audience to confront uncomfortable questions about sanity and society. And then there is Deadpool, the mercenary who breaks the fourth wall with relentless glee. His meta-narrative awareness, his direct conversations with the audience, are a direct inheritance from the mythological tricksters who seem to understand their own role as characters in a grand cosmic story. He is a modern Loki, trapped in a narrative he both participates in and openly mocks, showing us the seams of the fictional world we are consuming. This evolution is explored with stunning depth in the television series Loki, where the god of mischief is pulled from his timeline and forced to confront his own nature. The series pivots around his search for free will and a place to belong, a journey that mirrors the redemptive arcs found in myths like that of the Monkey King. He is no longer a simple villain, but a complex anti-hero grappling with identity and purpose, proving that the trickster's greatest trick might be the capacity for change. On a lighter note, the classic animated antics of Bugs Bunny offer a masterclass in trickster logic. With a calm demeanor and a carrot in hand, he uses superior wit and clever deceptions to humiliate larger, more powerful opponents like Elmer Fudd. He is the champion of the clever underdog, teaching generations that nonconformity and resourcefulness are powerful tools against brute force. The sheer persistence of these characters across comic books, films, and cartoons demonstrates the archetype's profound and enduring appeal. For creators, the trickster provides a powerful template for critiquing societal norms and injecting psychological depth into entertainment. For the audience, these modern stories are a subconscious way of engaging with the same ancient lessons about chaos, order, and the fluidity of the self. This cultural recycling keeps the wisdom of the old stories alive, proving that we still need the trickster to hold up a mirror to our own world. And in that reflection, the archetype consistently challenges one of our most fundamental constructs, the rigid binary of gender itself. The trickster's defiance extends even to the body itself, challenging one of humanity's oldest and most rigid categories, gender. These figures are masters of metamorphosis, not just in shape, but in the very expression of identity, serving as some of the earliest representations of fluidity and queerness in world mythology. The Norse god Loki, for example, did not merely change his appearance. To solve a critical problem for the gods, he once transformed into a mare, and in that form, he not only lured away a giant stallion, but later gave birth to Odin's eight-legged horse, Sleipnir. This was not a simple prank. It was a profound demonstration that identity, even biological function, could be fluid and situational. Far across the world, in Hawaiian tradition, the trickster Pua, the hogman, constantly shifts between human and animal forms, his gender expression as ambiguous and unpredictable as his nature. He is a being of raw, untamed desire who defies easy classification, blurring the lines between masculine and feminine in ways that would have challenged his society's deepest assumptions. This recurring theme is not an accident. Anthropologically, the trickster archetype frequently embodies androgyny or radical transformation, reflecting a deep-seated cultural understanding that human experience is far more diverse than any simple binary can contain. In many Native American cultures, this connection is made explicit. Trickster-like figures are often intimately associated with two-spirit identities, a sacred role that encompasses multiple genders and unique spiritual responsibilities. These individuals were not seen as outliers to be corrected, but as vital, integral parts of the community, holding a special perspective that bridged different ways of being. The ancient lesson is clear and powerful. Identity is not a monolith, and a society that embraces its own internal diversity gains access to greater creativity, resilience, and social harmony. This wisdom crashes into our modern moment with undeniable force. The trickster's inherent gender fluidity resonates deeply with contemporary movements for LGBTQ+ rights and acceptance. These ancient stories give us a mythic foundation for the deconstruction of rigid categories, reminding us that the fight for a more inclusive world is not a new trend, but a return to a very old understanding of human complexity. By learning from these narratives, we see that celebrating the full spectrum of expression is not about erasing differences, but about honoring the beautiful, chaotic, and creative potential that exists in the spaces between our labels. This very fluidity, this ability to adapt and reshape identity for a purpose, finds a powerful and practical application in the trickster's next great domain, the bustling marketplace and the intricate narratives of trade and economics. The marketplace has always been the trickster's natural habitat, a theater where the sharp mind consistently outmaneuvers the strong arm. These ancient tales are some of the earliest primers on economic strategy, celebrating the art of the clever deal where intelligence trumps brute force every time. Anansi the spider is a master of this craft. In one famous story, he aims to acquire all the world's stories from the sky god, who demands an impossible price: a swarm of hornets, a great python, and a leopard. Anansi does not attempt to fight these creatures. Instead, he uses his wit, tricking the hornets into a gourd by suggesting it is raining, deceiving the python into stretching out to be measured, and convincing the leopard to be tied up for a game. Through a series of brilliant, deceptive bargains, he delivers the impossible and wins the stories for humanity. His methods are not violent, but they are profoundly effective, demonstrating that negotiation and psychological insight are the ultimate currencies. This same principle echoes through the medieval European tales of Reynard the Fox, a cunning noble who constantly outsmarts the king's court. Reynard uses flattery, false promises, and elaborate ruses to evade punishment, gain favor, and accumulate wealth, always staying one step ahead of those who rely on their physical power or noble status. His survival depends entirely on his ability to read the room and manipulate the asymmetries of information, knowing things his opponents do not. This is a foundational concept in modern economics, where the party with better or more timely information holds a decisive advantage. These trickster narratives codify a timeless truth: in any competitive environment, whether a medieval forest or a modern trading floor, strategic thinking and adaptability are the true keys to success. The lesson is not to embrace dishonesty, but to recognize that resourcefulness is a potent form of power. In today's gig economy, where traditional career paths are vanishing, this trickster mindset becomes essential. The freelancer who identifies an unmet need, the entrepreneur who pivots a business model, the artist who finds a novel way to monetize their craft, all are employing a form of economic cunning. They leverage their unique strengths and see opportunities where others see only obstacles. This is ethical cunning in action, a creativity that seeks mutually beneficial outcomes rather than simple exploitation. It is the understanding that the most sustainable success comes not from crushing your competition, but from being smarter, more adaptable, and more perceptive. And the trickster's primary tool for navigating this complex dance of exchange and influence has always been the most versatile instrument of all: the spoken word. Words are the original magic, and the trickster is its most skilled sorcerer. This archetype understands that language is not merely a tool for description, but a force for creation and transformation. A well-placed word can build an alliance or dismantle an empire, all without a single sword being drawn. The Greek god Hermes, born at dawn, was inventing the lyre by midday and using his silver tongue to talk his way out of trouble by nightfall. His very first act was to steal Apollo's sacred cattle, and when confronted, he did not deny it. Instead, he delivered such a charming, clever, and persuasive speech that he not only avoided punishment but charmed Apollo into exchanging the cattle for the very lyre he had invented. Hermes demonstrates that rhetorical skill, the art of persuasive speaking, is a form of power as potent as physical strength, allowing one to shape perceptions and control outcomes. This mastery extends beyond simple persuasion into the very architecture of meaning. In West African traditions, the Orisha Eshu is the divine linguist, the master of the word. He understands that communication is a two-way street fraught with potential for error. The story of the two farmers and the two-colored hat is a perfect illustration. Eshu did not lie to the farmers. He simply presented a truth that their limited perspectives could not fully comprehend, revealing how easily language can divide when context is misunderstood. His trick shows that meaning is not fixed in the words themselves, but is negotiated in the space between speaker and listener. This ancient insight is the bedrock of modern leadership and conflict resolution. A great leader, like a trickster, must be bilingual, fluent in the languages of different groups, able to frame a vision in terms that resonate and unite. They know that the same message must be articulated differently to a boardroom, a community group, or a team of engineers. This is not manipulation, but essential empathy, the ability to step into another's worldview and find the words that connect. In our daily lives, this trickster wisdom is equally vital. A carefully chosen word can de-escalate a tense argument with a partner, while a poorly chosen one can ignite one. A compelling story can inspire a team to achieve the impossible, while a dull presentation can kill a brilliant idea. The modern world is saturated with this trickster energy, though we often miss it. Politicians craft soundbites designed to trigger emotional responses. Marketers frame products not as mere objects, but as gateways to an identity or a solution to an unspoken anxiety. They are using the trickster's playbook, wielding language to shape reality. This is not an invitation to cynicism, but a call to awareness. By recognizing these strategies, we become more critical consumers of information, learning to listen not just to what is said, but to how it is said and why. We can then reclaim that power for ourselves, learning to choose our own words with greater intention and art. We can learn to persuade without coercion, to explain with clarity, and to tell stories that captivate and heal. This sophisticated dance with language, this ability to use words to break down walls and build new understandings, finds its most profound application in the sacred space of healing, where chaotic speech can unexpectedly pave the road to recovery. Sometimes the most profound healing begins with a broken rule. The trickster archetype holds a startling but vital role in therapeutic traditions, serving as a catalyst for the emotional release we call catharsis. In modern hospital wards, this ancient wisdom takes the form of medical clowns, figures who use playful absurdity and gentle chaos to pierce the sterile atmosphere of fear and pain. A well-timed joke or a silly prop does more than just distract a suffering child. It disrupts the rigid narrative of illness, creating a momentary opening for joy and relief, proving that laughter can be a powerful medicine that operates where conventional treatments cannot reach. This principle runs even deeper in shamanic practices across the globe, where the trickster spirit is a sacred ally. A shaman might invoke the chaotic energy of a trickster guide, not to create random havoc, but to deliberately shatter stagnant emotional patterns within a person. The goal is to disrupt the frozen story of a trauma, allowing repressed feelings of grief, anger, or shame to finally surface and be released. It is a controlled demolition of the psyche, where the old, crumbling structure must be broken apart before a stronger one can be built. We see this mirrored in cultural rituals where a designated trickster figure performs outrageous, taboo-breaking acts. Their behavior, which might seem shocking or nonsensical, provokes a collective burst of laughter or gasps of surprise from the entire community. This shared experience creates a powerful wave of catharsis, a purging of accumulated social tensions and individual anxieties that everyone carries. The trickster in this sacred context becomes a communal healer. Psychologically, this aligns with powerful therapeutic models like drama therapy or experiential psychotherapy. In these settings, a therapist might consciously introduce a degree of creative chaos, encouraging a client to role-play a conflicting part of their personality or to express a buried emotion through movement or art. This process deliberately bypasses the logical, defensive mind to access the raw material of the unconscious. The lesson is both challenging and liberating. True healing is not always a quiet, orderly journey toward peace. Sometimes we must first allow a necessary disorder to erupt, breaking down our well-defended walls so that light and air can finally reach the wounded spaces within. On a personal level, embracing the trickster means courageously welcoming experiences that dismantle our comfort zones. That unexpected life change, that sudden failure, that relationship that turned everything upside down. These chaotic events can be the very catalysts that force a profound re-evaluation of who we are and what truly matters. By learning to navigate this chaos with support and courage, we do not just recover, we transform, emerging with a resilience and self-awareness we could never have gained through a life of perfect safety. This perspective invites us to see our own dreams as a nightly theater where the trickster freely performs, offering cryptic, chaotic, but potentially healing gifts from the depths of our own being. Your own dreams are a nightly theater for the trickster's return. When a fox darts through your sleeping mind or a coyote's laugh echoes in the shadows, it is rarely a random event. This is the unconscious mind itself adopting the trickster's mask, staging a subtle rebellion against the rigid control of your waking ego. The pioneering psychologist Carl Jung saw these figures as vital messengers. He believed the psyche constantly strives for balance, and when our conscious attitude becomes too one-sided, too strict, or too predictable, the unconscious sends up a compensating image to shake us out of our certainty. The trickster archetype in a dream is that perfect agent of chaos, challenging the parts of ourselves we have over-policed or completely ignored. Perhaps you have been too rigidly honest in a situation that demanded diplomatic cunning, and so a fox appears, hinting at the need for a more strategic approach. Or maybe you are deceiving yourself about your own motivations, and the dream coyote arrives as a warning to look more closely at the traps you are setting for yourself. These figures are not instructions to become dishonest. They are profound calls for psychological flexibility, urging you to integrate the very qualities your conscious mind has neglected. Engaging with these symbols is where the real magic happens. Modern dreamwork encourages us to move beyond simple interpretation and into active dialogue. Instead of dismissing a confusing or unsettling trickster dream, you might ask the figure what it represents. What part of your life is it inviting you to shake up? What overly rigid rule is it begging you to bend? This practice transforms the dream from a bizarre spectacle into a deep, personal consultation with your own inner wisdom. By listening to the trickster's nocturnal counsel, you begin to heal the split between your orderly conscious self and your wild, creative unconscious. You tap into a wellspring of intuitive problem-solving and raw creative energy that logic alone could never access. This inner work of embracing your own psychological complexity is the essential foundation for understanding the trickster's final, most powerful domain, its role as a revolutionary force on the stage of history itself. The tools of the trickster have always been the weapons of the powerless. When a regime silences dissent, It is satire and subversion that whisper the loudest, carrying the spirit of resistance on a current of laughter and cunning. Throughout the civil rights movement in the United States, activists deliberately employed nonviolent strategies that were profoundly trickster-like in their execution. A lunch counter sit-in was not merely a protest, it was a brilliant piece of political theater. By calmly occupying spaces where they were forbidden, these activists exposed the absurdity and brutality of segregation laws for the entire world to see. They used the system's own rigid rules against it, creating a spectacle that galvanized public opinion through a powerful, non-confrontational form of boundary crossing. This was not brute force, it was intelligent, creative disruption designed to reveal an ugly truth. In more overtly authoritarian contexts, where direct criticism means imprisonment or worse, the trickster's mask becomes a matter of survival. Underground artists, writers, and musicians adopt this persona to critique power from the shadows, using allegory, double meanings, and sharp irony to evade the censor's eye. A seemingly innocent children's cartoon might carry a scathing political message. A folk song's lyrics could mock a dictator while appearing to celebrate a harvest. This is the ancient art of speaking truth to power without saying it outright, a survival tactic as old as oppression itself. The trickster's entire toolkit, from humor to strategic deception, proves to be a formidable instrument of social justice. It demonstrates that resistance is not always a matter of meeting force with force. Often, it is about being smarter, more creative, and more perceptive than the oppressor, outmaneuvering them on a psychological battlefield. This legacy is vibrantly alive in our digital age. Modern hacktivists who expose corruption through data leaks, or meme creators who use viral humor to dismantle a politician's carefully crafted image, are the direct descendants of these traditions. They use technology as their new crossroads, their new liminal space from which to launch clever, disruptive strikes. By studying this political dimension, we see a clear pattern emerge. Profound change rarely originates from the center of power. It almost always erupts from the margins, from those who have nothing to lose but their chains and everything to gain from a clever ruse. Embracing a trickster mindset empowers communities to reclaim their agency, to use wit and collective creativity as a lever to move the world. This same spirit of ingenious disruption, so vital to social movements, is also the very engine that drives our most transformative technological breakthroughs. Every great leap forward begins with a question no one else dared to ask. This is the trickster's domain, the fertile ground where experimentation defies convention and true innovation is born. The spirit of the trickster has always been a secret engine of technological progress, a force that thrives on challenging the impossible. Historical figures like Nikola Tesla embody this archetype perfectly. His mind was a whirlwind of eccentric ideas, from harnessing the power of Niagara Falls to envisioning a world connected by wireless energy. He operated not by following established scientific methods, but through relentless, almost obsessive experimentation, often disregarding the financial and practical constraints that limited his peers. Tesla was a classic trickster in the world of science, a visionary who saw connections others missed and pursued his goals with a chaotic, rule-breaking genius that both captivated and confounded the world. This pattern is prefigured in the deepest roots of our stories. In Greek mythology, the master craftsman Daedalus was a trickster of invention. His brilliance created the labyrinth, a structure so complex it could contain a monster. Yet this same ingenuity was rooted in a deceptive pact with King Minos. Daedalus pushed the boundaries of the possible, but his creations often existed in a moral gray area, leading to unforeseen consequences, much like the technologies we develop today. The lesson here is not that rules are meaningless, but that progress demands a willingness to operate in the ambiguous space between order and chaos. It requires a tolerance for failure, a skepticism of established authority, and the courage to test the limits of what we think we know. We see this trickster spirit alive and well in the modern tech industry. Disruptive startups often play this role, acting as the Loki or Anansi of the business world. They overturn legacy systems and stagnant markets not with massive resources, but with clever, innovative models that rewrite the rules of the game entirely. Think of how streaming services dismantled the traditional video rental industry, or how digital platforms transformed how we communicate and work. These are not simple improvements, they are paradigm shifts born from a trickster-like refusal to accept the status quo. By consciously embracing this archetype, we can foster entire cultures of innovation that value creativity, risk-taking, and adaptive learning over rigid procedure. It reminds us that the path to genuine advancement is rarely a straight line. It is a winding, unpredictable journey filled with dead ends, unexpected detours, and brilliant, chaotic breakthroughs. This very process of creative, rule-bending discovery is not confined to laboratories and startups. It finds a powerful and urgent application in how we learn and how we teach. The most memorable lessons often arrive disguised as confusion. This is the trickster's classroom, a space where disruption is not a failure of instruction but its very method. As an unconventional educator, this archetype uses surprise and absurdity to shatter passive reception, forcing a deeper engagement with knowledge. Consider the timeless tales of Nasruddin Hoxha from Turkish folklore. In one story, he is seen feverishly searching for his lost key under a bright street lamp. A neighbor joins the search, but after finding nothing, finally asks Hoxha, "Are you certain you dropped it here?" To which Hoxha replies, "Oh no, I lost it inside my house." Baffled, the neighbor exclaims, "Then why are we searching out here?" And Hoxha simply says, "Because the light is better here." On the surface, this is a joke about foolishness, but its hidden lesson is a masterclass in critical thinking, a warning against the human tendency to look for answers only where it is easy, rather than where the truth actually resides. These stories are not meant to be swallowed whole. They are puzzles wrapped in metaphor and irony, designed to provoke reflection long after the telling is done. This ancient pedagogical tool aligns perfectly with modern educational theories like constructivism, which argue that learning is not a passive download of information, but an active, personal process of constructing meaning. True understanding is often born from cognitive dissonance, that uncomfortable feeling when our existing ideas are challenged by a puzzling scenario we cannot immediately resolve. The trickster specializes in creating this productive discomfort. The lesson for our own learning environments is profound. Education that prioritizes order and compliance above all else can inadvertently stifle the very curiosity it hopes to foster. By contrast, introducing trickster elements, like open-ended role-playing scenarios or complex problem-based learning, can dramatically enhance engagement and long-term retention. In a corporate training session, a carefully designed challenge that has no obvious solution can force teams to collaborate creatively, questioning their core assumptions. In a classroom, a historical simulation where outcomes are uncertain can make the past feel urgent and alive. This approach teaches a vital meta skill: how to learn, not just what to learn. It cultivates intellectual resilience, the ability to navigate ambiguity and persist through failure. By learning from the trickster, we come to appreciate that the deepest understanding rarely comes from simply following instructions. It arises from the messy, often chaotic process of questioning, experimenting, and sometimes falling short. This transformative view of learning as an active, sometimes disruptive journey naturally draws our attention to the grandest cycle of all, the trickster's own role in the eternal myths of death and rebirth. Nothing in the universe is truly permanent, not even the gods themselves. the trickster archetype reveals its most profound wisdom in its intimate dance with death and rebirth, teaching that every ending is secretly a beginning in disguise. Across mythologies, these chaotic figures are central to the great cycles of destruction and regeneration, both for the individual soul and for the cosmos. In the vibrant, complex world of Mesoamerican belief, the god Tezcatlipoca, whose name means smoking mirror, is a master of this cycle. He is a creator deity, yet he constantly challenges and overthrows his own creations, including other worlds that came before our own. His myth embodies the essential truth that existence requires constant renewal, and that this renewal is always preceded by a necessary and often chaotic ending. There is no room for stagnation in a living universe. This pattern echoes thunderously in the frozen halls of Norse prophecy. The event of Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods, is a cataclysm set in motion by Loki's actions, a direct result of the chaos he introduced into the divine order. Yet this total annihilation is not the final word. From the ashes of the old world, a new, green earth emerges, and a new generation of gods arises to steward it. Loki's disruptive spirit, however destructive in the immediate sense, ultimately clears the ground for a fresh start, a more resilient order that would never have been possible without the cleansing fire of the end. This is not about glorifying destruction for its own sake. It is about recognizing a fundamental law of life. Psychologically, this translates directly into our own personal journeys of transformation. Every time we must let go of an old identity, a relationship that has run its course, or a belief system that no longer serves us, we are undergoing a miniature Ragnarok. The process is painful, a form of death, because it means releasing a part of who we thought we were. The trickster archetype in these moments offers a strange comfort. It reminds us that this death is not a failure, but a necessary phase in the cycle of our own growth. Clinging to the past, to what was, only inhibits our capacity to become who we are meant to be. Embracing the trickster means finding the courage to accept impermanence, to trust that the chaos of a career change, the grief of a deep loss, or the uncertainty of a new path will eventually yield to a new and different order. It is the ultimate lesson in creative destruction, where the breaking apart of one form makes space for another to be born. This cyclical wisdom allows us to navigate life's inevitable ups and downs not with fear, but with a resilient and hopeful heart, understanding that even in the most final of endings, the seeds of the next beginning are already quietly waiting. This timeless dance of death and rebirth continues to play out, not just in ancient myths, but in the shadowy, modern tales we tell each other today. The digital campfire burns brightly on our screens, its new folklore written in code and shared in an instant. The trickster has seamlessly migrated into the 21st century, finding a home in the unsettling realm of urban legends and viral stories. These modern myths are the direct descendants of ancient tales, where mysterious figures and bizarre events challenge our grasp on reality and the unwritten rules of society. Characters like the Slender Man are not mere monsters, they are digital age tricksters. This entity emerges from the shadows of the internet, a faceless being that warps perception and lures the vulnerable, creating a profound sense of ambiguity and fear. He reflects our collective anxieties about the immense, anonymous power of technology and the dark corners of the online world we have built. These stories spread through social media with a speed that ancient storytellers could never have imagined, functioning as cautionary tales and sharp social commentaries. They are the modern equivalent of whispering around a fire, warning of dangers that feel both new and eerily familiar. Consider the persistent legends of anonymous hackers who breach corporate fortresses to expose hidden secrets. These figures are contemporary Prometheuses or Lokis, using their cunning to steal information fire from the modern gods of data and capital. Their actions, whether viewed as criminal or heroic, fulfill the classic trickster role of revealing uncomfortable truths that powerful institutions would prefer to keep buried. This demonstrates that the trickster impulse is far from extinct. It has simply found new mediums to question authority and probe the fragile boundaries of our belief. By analyzing these contemporary manifestations, we gain a powerful lens into our current cultural fears and desires. The glitch in the matrix phenomenon, where people share brief, inexplicable moments that seem to break the rules of reality, serves as a perfect example. These shared experiences are not about proving the nature of the universe, but about expressing a collective unease, a feeling that the orderly systems we rely on might be more fragile and illusory than we admit. They invite us to stay curious and critical in the face of the unknown, questioning the very fabric of our perceived reality. This modern folklore proves that the trickster's essential lessons are not trapped in dusty scrolls or ancient temples. They are alive, evolving in real time, adapting their chaotic wisdom to speak directly to the anxieties and wonders of our interconnected age. These stories form a global tapestry, each thread a different color but all woven from the same fundamental pattern. When you place the West African Anansi beside the European puck, or set the Chinese monkey king next to the Native American coyote, a profound truth emerges. Despite oceans and centuries of separation, these tricksters are all wrestling with the same core human dilemmas. They all champion intelligence over brute strength, demonstrating that a clever mind is the ultimate equalizer in an unfair world. They all dare to question the gods, the kings, and the established rules, forcing their communities to confront the difference between legitimate authority and blind obedience. And they all, without exception, embody life's inherent contradictions, showing us that wisdom and foolishness, creation and destruction, are two sides of the same coin. This is not a coincidence. The anthropologist Paul Radin, who studied the Winnebago trickster cycle extensively, argued that these figures represent a universal stage in human consciousness. Later, the psychologist Carl Jung would see this as powerful evidence for his theory of archetypes, suggesting that the trickster is a primordial image buried deep in the collective unconscious of all people. It is a psychic pattern we are born recognizing, a shared script for understanding chaos. The lesson here is one of profound connection. The specific costumes and settings change, a spider in one land, a fox in another, a monkey in a third. But the core struggles, the desire for freedom against the need for order, the use of wit to overcome oppression, and the journey toward self-awareness through error, these are human constants. Engaging with these cross-cultural stories does more than just entertain us. It builds a bridge of empathy. When you understand why a Chinese audience cheers for Sun Wukong's rebellion against the celestial bureaucracy, you gain a window into a value system that prizes cleverness and spiritual ambition. When you appreciate how Anansi's greed is always tempered by his role as a provider of gifts, you see a culture navigating the balance between individual desire and communal good. This comparative lens allows us to appreciate the beautiful diversity of human expression while simultaneously recognizing our shared humanity. In a world that often feels fractured by difference, these ancient narratives remind us that we have always been telling each other the same stories about survival, meaning, and the transformative power of a little well-placed chaos. This universal frame invites a deeply personal question. How do these age-old patterns of cunning and resilience find a place in the choices you make every single day? This wisdom is not meant to be locked away in ancient books. It is a living toolkit ready for the challenges of your own daily life. Embodying the trickster mindset begins with a simple, powerful shift, choosing curiosity over certainty. It means actively seeking out the perspectives that make you uncomfortable and listening to the voices you normally ignore. When faced with a difficult colleague or a recurring family argument, instead of digging into your position, you might try a trickster move, asking a genuine question to understand their world. This cognitive flexibility, the ability to hold multiple truths at once, dissolves rigid standoffs and opens pathways to unexpected solutions. In your own problem solving, this could look like brainstorming 20 deliberately absurd ideas before settling on a practical one, forcing your mind to break its own patterns. Or it might involve collaborating with someone from a completely different department or background, inviting a little creative chaos into the process to spark innovation. Humor becomes your ally, not as a weapon to mock, but as a tool to gently dismantle tension. A well-timed, self-deprecating joke can lower defenses and reconnect people when a serious discussion has stalled. This approach also redefines failure. The trickster falls into 1,000 traps, yet always finds a way out, a little wiser each time. When a project at work fails or a personal plan unravels, the trickster mindset asks not, "Why did I fail?" but "What hidden door has this just opened? What did this experience teach me that success never could?" This is not about reckless anarchy. The most effective trickster operates with a deep sense of responsibility, understanding that boundary crossing must serve an ethical goal and respect the dignity of others. It is the intelligence to know when to play by the rules and the courage to know when the rules themselves need to be questioned for the greater good. By consciously weaving these strands of curiosity, adaptability, and creative defiance into your days, you stop being just a character in your life story. You become its co-author, armed with the playful, resilient spirit to edit the script, introduce a surprising plot twist, and navigate the complexities of the modern world with grace and ingenuity. This personal power, however, demands a careful look at the shadow that follows every trickster, the fine line between clever disruption and harmful deceit. Every great power carries a shadow, and the trickster's cunning is no different. Without a moral compass, this disruptive energy can curdle from creative force into pure poison, leaving broken trust and shattered relationships in its wake. Mythology itself never shies away from this darker side. The Norse god Loki, for all his cleverness, is eventually bound in the entrails of his own son, trapped beneath a serpent's dripping venom for his role in the death of the beloved god Balder. His chaos, once a source of innovation for the gods, ultimately becomes a chain that secures his torment. Across the ocean, the Native American Coyote frequently falls victim to his own schemes, getting his head stuck in a buffalo skull or losing his eyes because of his unchecked greed. These are not random punishments, but narrative lessons in consequence. They teach a simple, brutal truth: unchecked chaos does not liberate, it isolates. It severs the very bonds that hold a community or a life together. In our own world, this translates with painful clarity. A white lie told to avoid a difficult conversation can slowly erode the foundation of a marriage. A clever manipulation in the workplace, even if it secures a short-term advantage, will inevitably poison team dynamics and destroy your reputation. The tool of deception is sharp, and it cuts the hand that wields it as often as its intended target. This is why the trickster's greatest power must be tempered by its oldest companions, wisdom and empathy. The crucial question is never just whether a trick will work, but why you are choosing to play it in the first place. Are you challenging a stifling rule to create more freedom for everyone, or are you merely serving your own selfish ambition? The same act of boundary crossing can be either a revolutionary act or a criminal one, and the difference lies entirely in the intention behind it and the compassion for those affected. This is the ultimate balancing act the trickster archetype demands of us. We must learn to hold the tension between the need for order and the need for change, understanding that true wisdom is not about choosing one over the other, but about knowing precisely when to disrupt and when to build, when to speak out and when to listen. By studying the trickster's failures as intently as their triumphs, we internalize this vital equilibrium. We learn to harness that wild, creative energy not to tear down for its own sake, but to clear space for something better, something more compassionate and more truly resilient. This ethical reflection is the final, non-negotiable step, ensuring that the chaos we invite into our lives serves a purpose greater than ourselves, fostering genuine growth without leaving a trail of unnecessary harm in its wake. Our journey through these timeless stories reveals the trickster as a profound and multifaceted teacher. The lessons in ambiguity, humor, creativity, and resilience we have uncovered are not relics of a distant past. They are urgent survival skills for our modern world, as vital now as they were when our ancestors first gathered around the fire. From the cosmic schemes of Loki to the earthly antics of Coyote, these chaotic characters present a radical idea that chaos is not the enemy of order, but its essential partner. One cannot exist without the other. It is the tension between them that drives all evolution, both in our societies and within our own souls. This dynamic is the engine of enlightenment, a force that constantly pushes us to grow beyond our self-imposed limits. We have walked alongside these figures as they taught us to embrace our own contradictions, to hold multiple truths at once without shattering. They have given us the courage to question entrenched authority and the wisdom to know when a rule exists for protection and when it exists only for control. Above all, they have demonstrated the profound power of adaptability, showing us how to bend without breaking when the winds of change inevitably blow. These are not just tools for personal growth, they are blueprints for building a more conscious, compassionate, and resilient society. As you navigate the complexities of your own life, carry this trickster spirit forward. Let it be an invitation to live more fully, to think more creatively, and to connect more authentically with the world around you. This is not a call to reckless anarchy, but a challenge to engage with life's boundaries more intelligently. So the next time you face an immovable rule or an unyielding obstacle, pause for a moment and ask yourself the most disruptive question of all: what would the trickster do? We would love to hear your thoughts and your own favorite trickster stories in the comments below. If these explorations into the mysteries of mythology have sparked something in you, subscribe for more journeys into the hidden wisdom of our oldest stories. Thank you for joining this adventure into the heart of chaos and creation. May your own path be filled with wise disruptions, unexpected turns, and the kind of transformative chaos that leads to your greatest discovery.